Welcome to Toastmasters, and this is my first speech, Icebreaker speech, and I picked for the topic, Talk the Walk. And the reason I picked Talk the Walk, because as a Catholic, I find it's much easier for me to walk my faith, to live my faith, than it is to talk about my faith. And I've been in the monastery for 28 years, and I'm on the radio. I have my own radio program, and it's still hard to talk about my faith spontaneously or with anybody wanting to know about where I stand with the Lord and all that kind of thing. It's much easier just to say, you know, I'm wearing a habit, I'm walking my faith. But to talk my faith is much harder. And I first became aware of how important it is to talk my faith when I was about 4 years old. And at that time, our family, I come from a large family. We have a lot of kids, 11 altogether, actually. And at this one point in time, my dad was out of work. He was unemployed, and things were really tight. But there was a check that was supposed to be coming in the mail, but it didn't come. And the more it didn't come, the more the tension built up in the family. And we were a Catholic family, and we prayed before meals, and we went to church. And we all kind of prayed privately, but we never prayed together as a group. But my dad thought this was urgent, and this one day he pulled out a bench from the table and had all the kids kneel around the table, and we prayed for this check to come. And I don't remember if the check came or not, but I do remember my dad thinking it's important enough to gather the whole family to pray together. And that was my first witness at 4 years old of how important it is to talk the walk. And then again, another time happened a lot later when I was in, my brother was in high school. I was maybe 13 years old. And my brother, Mike, was in the fall, it was some warm fall day. He was out in the yard, and he had a seizure. And immediately everybody gathered around him because my brother had never had a seizure before. And it was the most frightening thing that I'd ever witnessed in my life at that point, because the seizure is so terrifying, especially for a child. And you know, he's rolling his eyes in the back of his head and moaning and arching his back, and it just looked like he was dying. And I remember yelling out, "Lord Jesus, help us. Jesus, you have to help my brother." And this was like the first time that in my family I'd ever witnessed. I mean, I wasn't really witnessing in a way. I was just making sure God knew what was happening here and to get here and help. And my brother did, you know, survive that time. And but what kind of opened my mind was until that time I really hadn't ever talked my faith with my family. You know, they all knew, you know, because we lived the faith, we kind of walked the faith, but we didn't talk the faith. And that was very important to me, to know how important it is at times to share our faith, even though we might know that we're Catholic or that we're Christian and that we're living our faith. It's also important to actually talk about it. And so one of the reasons that I wanted to join Toastmasters and to start a club was to learn how to share my faith without it being a critical emergency, you know, without having somebody about ready to die before I would admit that I would call on the Lord. And so that's basically what my speech is about, is learning how to talk the walk.